we are a lone ranger going out there by offering students two family members who will be able to come back for campus, two tickets to, there's two major ceremonies that will occur that weekend. One will be a diploma ceremony by college, and the other will be the full commencement exercises in the stadium. All these events will be outdoors. Nothing is planned to be indoors, so we can, help to prevent the spread of the virus. And we will be combining the baccalaureate mass on Sunday morning, right afterwards, with kind of an abbreviated commencement ceremony. So we're really excited to offer that. If you're coming back, if you have a family member, we strongly encourage you to have the vaccine before you return to campus. And we're looking for what should be a wonderful in-person gathering to celebrate our recent graduates who are going to go off and make a huge impact and difference in this world. It's my pleasure now to introduce our keynote speaker today, Professor Michael Desch is the Packey D Professor of International Relations, and he is also the Brian and Jeannelle Brady Family Director of the International Security Center. He received his BA in Political Science from Marquette University. He received his PhD in Political Science from the University of Chicago. And prior to returning or coming to Notre Dame as a professor, he was the founding director of the Snowcroft Institute of International Affairs, and he was the first holder of the prestigious Robert M. Gates Chair in Intelligence and National Security Decision Making at the George Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M. Prior to that, he was an assistant professor and director and senior research associate at the John Olin Institute for Strategic Studies at Harvard. So he comes to Notre Dame incredibly well credentialed, and we're really excited for you to join us today, Michael. And maybe you could start out by sharing with everyone, where did your interest, when did it begin, your passion for politics and political science, and then when did you receive this calling to become a university professor?
Well, Lou, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Did you get my mom to write it? There is only a tenuous relationship with the truth, but I won't correct any of it. It's great to be with you. So, how did I get into political science, international relations, and international security? Not to date myself, but I'm on the tail end of the baby boom. I was born in 1960. My first, real political memories were of the end of the Vietnam War, of the détente era, and then of the, second phase of the Cold War that began in the late 1970s. And so a lot of history was going on in front of my eyes involving foreign policy and U.S. national security policy. So I think that was part of it. Part of it, though, I think, was I had some terrific teachers when I was in high school who sort of nudged me towards this field. I had a sister Ricarda, who taught world history, who made history a living thing for me and really inspired me. I also had a Spanish teacher, Silvia Lopez, who was an attorney in Batista's Cuba, who had to leave after the revolution and became a high school teacher. Having the living example of those folks, really made the headlines live in people as well. So I attribute to both of them my substantive interest in the field. Now, you want to know how I became a college professor
Mhm.
as opposed to the other ways I could have engaged these issues. My late father would have said that it's because I didn't want a full time job. And so, being a college professor, I'd have summers off. Um, but actually, it's interesting. When I was in college at Marquette, I was just taken with courses in international relations, international security, U.S. foreign policy. But I went back and forth. Did I want to go to Washington and, be a policymaker?
Mhm.
Or did I want to, you know, get a PhD and become a scholar? And into graduate school, I still tried to keep a foot in both camps. I wasn't sure. So when I was at the University of Chicago, I spent summers working in Washington. I worked on the Hill a couple of times, and I worked in the intelligence community. And I always say that being a college professor saved me from being involved in the Iran Contra scandal.
Mhm.
Because in the summer of 1984, I was working for the part of the State Department that coordinates with the rest of the intelligence community. And this was the Inter American Affairs Division of the Bureau of Intelligence and Research. And that summer, you may recall, Lou, or the folks on the call may recall, there was a lot of debate about U.S. foreign policy in Central America, both
Mhm.
towards El Salvador and also Nicaragua.
Yep.
And there was a new office that our office briefed called the Office for Public Diplomacy in Latin America. I never briefed them because they were up on a vault, in a vault on the floor above us. At the end of my summer at INR, some the guys I worked with knew I was thinking about maybe staying in Washington, and so they gave my name to the folks in this office. So the chief of staff called me up and said, "Are you interested in the job?" I said, "Well, maybe. What do you guys do?" And he said, "Well, we can't really tell you till we bring you on board and clear you." And I thought, huh, that's strange. An office for public diplomacy in Latin America where they can't tell you what they do. Already at that point, I'd sort of decided that I was going to finish my PhD in Chicago. So I said thanks, but no thanks, but didn't give it another thought until the summer of the Iran Contra hearings when Colonel Oliver North and Admiral John Poindexter and Ambassador Otto Reich, who was the director of this office, were all sitting at the table in front of the Senate committee holding the hearings. And then I found out what the Office of Public Diplomacy for Latin America did. They were the conduit for the money for the arms sales to the Iranians, to the Nicaraguan Contras. And if
Yeah.
I'd have taken that job, I would have once a month flown down to Tegucigalpa in Honduras with a briefcase full of money handcuffed to my arm. And so academia saved me, Lou, from
I love it.
ignominy.
I love it. Well, there's more reasons than one now that we are thrilled that you chose the vocation of a university professor. But I remember it was big news, Michael, when you chose to leave this prestigious role at Texas A&M and come to Notre Dame. I knew people were just thrilled. It had a ripple effect on the whole international relations, international security arena. That you'd make this move from the George Bush School to Notre Dame to really kind of galvanize what we were trying to do here. How were we able to recruit you away from that plush position and get you here to Notre Dame?
Well, I think there were a couple of things. One institutionally, Notre Dame already had a really good critical mass of young people in the department and in some other departments who were working on issues related to what I was doing in international security. So it was, I'd be coming to a place where there was a lot to build on in
Mhm.
terms of, putting together a world class program in international security. Uh, Also, I think the fact that Notre Dame was running what former dean of the College of Arts and Letters, John McGreevy, calls the Notre Dame experiment, of trying to be an excellent Catholic university with equal emphasis on both of those adjectives was very attractive to me. It's a distinct place, and I wasn't eager to leave the Bush School or Texas A&M, but I always had the Notre Dame clause in my contract. I guess I should probably also confess a personal element to the choice. You mentioned another ignominious element in my biography, the fact that I went to Marquette rather than Notre Dame. In fact, I come from an old Notre Dame family. My father was an alum, and my grandfather played football for Newt Rockne and was Notre Dame's first Olympic medalist. And the fact that in an act of youthful rebellion, I went somewhere else, it was always, I think, in the back of my mind that maybe I was missing something, not having, experienced Notre Dame. So the wheel of karma turned, and I became part of the hired help. But I've been here longer than both my father and grandfather combined, and
I love it.
for personal and professional reasons, it was absolutely the ideal fit.
Well,
Providential, maybe we'd say.
exactly, providential. I would, we might consider you. I didn't know that story, but the prodigal son and prodigal
Exactly.
grandson to come
In
back
more
home.
ways than one, Lou.
Well, we're thrilled to welcome you back. The prodigal son story is one that everybody knows about in a tangent here, but I love it that Pope Francis kind of renamed that biblical passage, and he said it really ought to be called the merciful Father, which I think is really beautiful to kind of look at it in that positive light rather than that's completely tangential though to what we're talking about. You're the founding director, the Brian and Jeannelle Brady family director, which is just an absolutely wonderful family to bear. Their name is a great
Yeah, they're
honor.
Brian and Jeannelle are great Notre Dame supporters, and
Yes.
couldn't be more grateful to them for all that they've done.
So tell us a little bit. What does the Notre Dame Center for International Security entail, both in terms of mission and the kind of the scope of the work that you engage
Well, at the broadest level, Lou, our center does three things. We do research in the area of international security, broadly defined, and that's faculty and pre and postdoctoral fellows who are, mostly carrying the research burden. And our objective is to try to connect the very best work that's being done in the ivory tower with the pressing problems that the nation and the world face in the areas of security and military policy and things like that. So, research is a big part of our portfolio.
in?
Secondly, teaching. We teach at both the undergraduate and graduate levels, and try to offer a rich curriculum at both levels for people who are going to make international security a career, whether it's young folks going to Washington and joining government, or students in ROTC who are going to be military officers, or graduate students who are going to be the next generation of scholars of international security affairs. And then finally, we have a public affairs programming mandate. As I think you mentioned earlier, we see our role as conveners of issues and topics of mutual interest to people on campus and people in the policy world. So we had then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Martin Dempsey, out a couple of years ago, just coincidentally on the Michigan home game weekend, to give a major talk to the game day audience. We have a regular seminar series during the semester that brings scholars and current and former policymakers in. And we do a number of other things, to try to educate the campus community and the broader public in various issues in security affairs. So those are the three big areas the center is most concerned with.
Great. Are international security centers common in higher education? How many schools would have something like what we have here at Notre Dame? And how is the Notre Dame Center for International Security distinct? So, yeah.
In the early days of the Cold War, when American higher education was expanding, and there was a real sense that there were a lot of new issues that we needed to focus brain power on, particularly nuclear weapons. There were a fair number of centers like NDISC whose mission was to sort of bridge the gap between the ivory tower and the policy world. But really, starting in the 1970s, I think mostly a sort of hangover of the anti military sentiment of the Vietnam War, many of those centers either changed direction very radically or shut down in the first place. So I would say, now there's probably 10 or 12 centers like NDISC, and I'd point to MIT, Harvard, both the Weatherhead Center and the Kennedy School, Stanford University's CSAC, UC San Diego. Those are probably the top centers today, who are our peers, who
Yeah.
we, aspire to emulate and actually overtake, if you ask me. Now, how are we distinct? I think we're distinct in a couple of ways. The most important of which is we're part of a Catholic university in which the Catholic mission is not a bumper sticker, it really infuses everything that we do. And I think in two ways. One is the Catholic intellectual tradition is broad and integral. So, we try to think about security issues not only in the nuts and bolts, weapons technology and strategy, but also in the larger philosophical context in which they operate in. Secondly, the Catholic intellectual tradition, particularly the just war tradition, has a lot of very important resources that ought to be a part of the larger debate within the United States about national security affairs. So I am teaching this semester a course on war and statecraft in the Catholic intellectual tradition. And it's great to teach a course like that, but only at a place like Notre Dame could you do it. Would you have, and I invite a lot of my colleagues in from theology or philosophy, had to young military historian Ian Johnson was in today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only at a place like Notre Dame where you'd have that broad range of people, that could be part of the conversation that we want our students to be exposed to. So I think that's a distinct element of being at Notre Dame. I also think that Notre Dame has a long and storied link with the U.S. military and the U.S. national security community, going back to Father Corby at Gettysburg, but Father Hesburgh and the military veterans, and the fact that today uh, we have a robust ROTC presence here on our campus that rivals the military academy. So it's a natural fit, in my view.
Mm-hmm. So you have been a distinguished leader in this arena of international security, bridging the gap between higher ed and the policy making for many years now. How would you say the pressing issues confronting international security have evolved from when you began your career to where you are today? And what are some of the most pressing issues that you confront today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lou, because it's been like a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
I finished my PhD right at the end of the Cold War, a year before the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so much of the Cold War was focused on the Soviet Union and the nuclear and conventional military balance between those two countries. The end of the Cold War, from the 90s through, maybe the mid teens, was a very interesting period. It was a period, on the one hand, of great optimism. With the end of the Cold War, maybe we had, reached what Stanford professor Frank Fukuyama called the end of history, meaning, the end of the development of how we thought about the world. And then, of course, in the midst of this euphoria about the end of history, we also had 9/11, seemingly and literally out of the blue, and then a series of endless wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria. So we've gone up and down. We're now thinking a lot about the emergence or reemergence of great power politics, and what our relationship is going to be like, not only with Russia, but especially with the People's Republic of China. So there's an old Chinese curse: may you live in interesting times. And I would have to say, in my business, the times have been very interesting for the last 30 years of my career in it. We've seen a lot of dramatic changes.
So, would you say that the motives for war have changed over time? If at one point it was hegemony and trying to acquire more land, has it moved more to kind of resources? I want more oil, or um, how was that evolved?
Well, I think what's changed most significantly is, in the 19th century, or up until the 19th century, war as a legitimate instrument of statecraft was pretty widely accepted.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the legacy of the 20th century, at least rhetorically, has been to erode that. And war now has to be justified, and think about this in the context of Catholic just war theory, as being the last resort, or for limited objectives like self-defense
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. I think there have been some other big changes, that have changed the calculus of war. The first and most important, in my view, is the nuclear revolution. With the invention of atomic and thermonuclear weapons and their spread among the great powers, I think almost everybody has concluded that war would be an absolute disaster. It's hard to figure out how war could be a useful instrument of statecraft when you're walking the knife edge of Armageddon. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big change. I think another big change, and this for me will be the root of our rivalry with China, is that there are other methods short of war that great powers can compete. And I think China is sort of pushing that in terms of waging geoeconomics rather than strictly 19th century power politics. Now, there's no doubt that China is building up its military capability and it's fortifying some sandbars in the South China Sea. And that looks like business as usual for great powers. But it's also using its economic and its ideological influence to try to achieve advantage. So the Belt and Road Initiative is one example, and another example is that China is very confident in its sort of quasi-authoritarian political system, and they think that they're an alternative to the big L liberal order that the United States has led since the end of the Second World War. So I think the bad news is that great power politics is back on the agenda in a big
Mm-hmm.
way, certainly with China, to a lesser extent with Russia. But I think it's going to look different than the Cold War. It's not going to be so much about how many nuclear warheads they have or how many tanks they have, and more about imagining great power competition by other means.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, cyber conflict, which is another of the big topics that's getting a lot of attention from people in my world, is another illustration of how the field has changed very dramatically. I mean, we talk about cyber war, but it's not really war. We talk about cyber weapons, but they're not weapons in the way we think about it. And also with cyber, you're talking about not only state adversaries like China and Russia or Iran or North Korea, but also non-state actors. So there's plenty of business for us international security folks in the 21st century to understand this new world that's emerging after the end of the Cold War.
So, Michael, when you look at the collaborative work of the Notre Dame um, International Security Center, how would be some tangible ways where you feel like you've been able to have a real impact on some of these problems, whether it be cybersecurity issues or trying to kind of bring groups together that have been historically in conflict, or just to be able to spread kind of more mutual understanding and accord?
Well, my vocation is teaching, and I'd like to think that I've been able to make a small but meaningful difference through teaching. Of course, teaching undergraduates through our international security certificate program, is for me sort of the cherry on the top of the Sunday of my career, if that's not mixing too many metaphors at the same time. But Notre Dame undergraduates are marvelous. They're so smart, they're so motivated, and they're so committed to the commonweal, to something beyond uh, just themselves. And so to be able to prepare them for careers in government service is a great and very rewarding career track. Likewise, teaching graduate students, people who in the not too distant future are going to replace old dogs like me, is also rewarding. I mean, you feel like you're part of an ongoing enterprise that's bigger than you, and that's going to continue long after you're gone. One of the things, at the level of graduate students that we do that not a lot of other people do is we have uniformed military officers who are doing PhDs in our department and then going back out and teaching in professional military education, like the war colleges or the academies, or who are going out and actually doing what they do, but with the benefit of a PhD from the University of Notre Dame. And I also like to think that playing the role of a public intellectual, trying to figure out how my own work or the work of my many distinguished colleagues, speaks to larger issues and trying to make sense of those for the Notre Dame community and for the public, I find incredibly rewarding. And I think that's, my vision of what the university should be. It's not always like that. But again, being at Notre Dame, a place that's committed to being, as Father John says, a force for good in the world, makes it a lot easier to do that here than it would be at many other, even very good universities in the country.
You mentioned, the importance of playing the role of convener, and my experience, with you is that you have a formidable set of relationships with policy leaders, practitioners in the field, and you've been able to leverage those relationships and bring them to Notre Dame, to our students, to the broader Notre Dame family. Can you share some examples? You mentioned one, with the former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but others that you've been able to bring to campus and bring into the orbit of our students and their education.
Well, one thing that we've been involved in for a number of years is a unclassified open source project that's run by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the National Intelligence Council. And
Mm-hmm.
every 4 years, they do a study called Global Trends, where they try to think out 15 or 20 years what the world's going to look like. And in doing this, they're not relying on intelligence reports from spies or satellite pictures or electronic intercepts, but they're trying to tap into areas of expertise in various parts of world politics to get a sense of which way the wind is blowing. And we've been part of the global trends process for the past 10 years, and that's been great for us, and I think it's been great for Notre Dame to be part of that conversation. So that's one example. Um, I have a relationship with the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, which is sort of a Midwestern version of the New York Council on Foreign Relations. And we have done a number of programmatic things with them over the years. And I actually have one in my pocket that I'm hoping is going to be ripe just coincidentally in time for a certain football game in late September in Soldier Field. So we're essentially hoping that between NDISC and the Chicago Council, we're going to be able to host a major policy statement on the Biden administration's China policy. So if the stars align or the planets align, we'll be able to do that, maybe the Friday before the big game in Chicago. And hopefully, we'll have a lot of the folks that are in town for the game will also, be able to be a part of that. So those are the sorts of things that we like to do by way of convening. And again, being at Notre Dame makes convening easy. I mean, you're very kind to say that I have a robust Rolodex, and I think that's true. But you can have the phone number or the email, but people need to say yes. And I find it's very easy for people to say yes to Notre Dame. And that's an important thing that we should leverage, and I'm glad we're able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Good point. If you had to point to one pressing international security issue that concerns you above all others at this moment in history, what would it be?
Well, I think it's got to be the rise of China, although there were a lot of other, potential booby traps out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, I think, a somewhat different view of the rise of China than many people in the public discussion have. I mean, on the one hand, there's no doubt that China is going to be the peer competitor for the United States in the 21st century. And great power politics is certainly back on the table. On the other hand, I worry that a lot of the discussion of the rise of China is a bit, you know, old think in terms of thinking about China as the second coming of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, rather than thinking what's new about the challenge that China will pose to the United States. And there is a traditional military element of it, to be sure, but I also think there's a geo-economic and also an ideological element. And indeed, the United States being able to demonstrate that our open market and democratic political system is up to the challenge from China, and that's not a military challenge, it's
Mm-hmm.
something much bigger. That's going to be a big part of the of the rivalry that we've got to think smart about how to successfully wage. And so dealing with the rise of China, but dealing with China as China, not
Yeah,
the second coming of the Soviet Union. That's our big challenge.
excellent point. How can alumni, parents, and friends, those watching this interview, how can they get engaged with the Notre Dame Center for International Security?
Well, almost everything we do in terms of public affairs programming is open to the public, including the university community. Now, pre-COVID, that often meant that for a lot of folks who aren't in the Michiana area, if we did something on a home game weekend that they were in town for, they could attend in person, one of those events. The one upside of the past year has been that we've learned a lot about how to do our things hybrid, meaning, not only in person, but also in a way that if people want to join us via Zoom, they can be a part of our events. So, for example, our NDISC seminar, usually six seminars each semester on Tuesday afternoons, if they get on their mailing list, we'll send them an invitation that now includes a Zoom link. And even when we go back, God willing, next fall to having an in person seminar, we're still going to use what we learned from the past year to make it available to people who aren't in town. So that is, a easy way to be
Mhm.
regularly involved in what we're doing. Send us an email and subscribe to our email listserv, and we'll try to fill your mailboxes not only with invitations to events, but also news about articles that we've published, op-ed pieces,
Mhm.
interviews, reports that we're doing, and things like that. We've got plenty of stuff going on beyond, just the seminars or the talks that we have going.
What is the email address that they should reach out to you with?
They should send an email to me at mdesch@nd.edu, and I'll get it into the system. Um,
m-nd.edu. Perfect.
right, right, and I think I'd also ask them to you know, Notre Dame parents encourage their kids to come and see what we've got going on. You
Mhm.
don't have to be in our certificate program to join us for our seminars or even participate in many of our extracurricular activities. We usually do a spring break trip for the students. This time last year, we were at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, at the Special Warfare Center when the whole COVID thing broke. The year before, we were at the Nevada nuclear test site just north of Las Vegas. And the courses we teach and the extracurricular activities that we sponsor uh, are not exclusively for the students that are in our program. We see ourselves as a university resource. But we also are confident enough to get a little taste of what we're doing,
Mhm.
and they want to be more involved with us. So I'll confess a little self interest in that.
Fantastic. Well, one final question, Michael. You are also a Notre Dame parent, and you have twins this year who are graduating, a son and a daughter. What has it been like to wear the hat not of Notre Dame professor or the son and grandson of Notre Dame alumni, but to be a Notre Dame parent? How has that transformed your perception of the university?
Well, apropos your first question about why I came to Notre Dame, the possibility that my kids would be able to go to Notre Dame was a non-trivial aspect of the deal, so to speak. And of course, my elder daughter, like me, broke my heart and went to the college at the University of Chicago before she went to law school there. So she had the offer to come and turned it down. So when my twins accepted coming here, I was thrilled. Although if they'd rebelled like I did, I probably would have been my just desserts. But the thing I've always felt before I had kids in school here was that if parents came and saw campus not just on a game day Saturday in the fall when it's great and beautiful, but if they came in February in the middle of the week and went to classes with their kids, they'd see just how special the Notre Dame campus experience is. And special in two ways. I always tell my students, if your folks are in town and they want to come to class, I'd love to have them come
Mhm.
because I've never had a class where I thought, geez, I would have wished that there were no outsiders there. It's always a great experience. I think the other thing is that they would see just how deeply the whole experience is infused with the Catholic mission of the university in a real way that would give them, great comfort, but also great excitement about the Notre Dame experiment. Looks like it's really working
Mhm.
well. So in a way, I'd had 10 years of experience like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. And,
Mhm.
I knew that my twins were going to have a absolutely fabulous experience as undergraduates. And they have had that, as I know your son has had too.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. You continue to bless us with your thought leadership on very important issues, with your, you know, complete devotion to our students and their education and their formation, and then also the role that you play as a convener, bringing practitioners together with thought leaders to help us envision a better, more peaceful, and a more just world. So we really appreciate that at all levels, and thank you for taking the time today to share some of those thoughts with us. mdesch at nd.edu if you want to reach out to Michael going forward. And thanks again. And I wanted to just let you know that we'll come back after what I hope will be a blessed Easter for all of you next Wednesday, same time at noon. We're going to be joined by Notre Dame senior Emily Eagle. You will absolutely fall in love with this young woman and her CNI dog Rebel. They will join us on next week, and for I think what will be a very thought-provoking but also emotional conversation. And as we always do, please join us, Michael, and everybody in your workplaces and in your homes, and we'll close with a prayer to Our Lady. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Take care. God bless. Go Irish. Happy Easter.
Thanks so much, Lou.
Thank you, Michael.